Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about Barn Burning, written by William Faulkner. Now, before I go into summary analysis of this work, please remember to give a like, subscribe, and/or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. All right, Barn Burning, a very interesting short story here by William Faulkner. Very simple. Basically, what happens? Let's just get to the cut to the chase here. Basically, what happens? We have this family, the Snopes family, very dysfunctional family. Abner Snopes, he's the father, very violent guy. He's upset with the upper class. He lives in this community where there's a lot of farmers, and they have these farms, and they hire people like the Snopes to work on the farms. And so, this type of family, they're moving around, doing farm work. It's Abner Snopes, his two daughters, his two boys, and his wife. So the six of them, they move around and they do work on farms. And basically, Abner, he's this type of guy. He's upset with the upper class. And this is something that's really scary when you have poor people, when you don't have a middle class, really. A lot of humans are okay with having a middle class. You have enough to eat, you have a place to sleep, you have some money for some fun, and you're not struggling all your life. But when you have like extremely rich and extremely poor, well, that can get quite dangerous, because at some point the extremely poor will be like, well, we've had enough of this. We need to flip the, like, how like sometimes when you're playing with kids, and let's say the game, somebody's really losing, and the kid might just like flip the game over when it gets too unfair, or the kid feels like he's had enough or she's had enough. Well, in some ways, this story, Barn Burning, is like that. Abner, he's like, I've worked all my life, I'm working all my life for these rich people, they have these farms, and I'm making them money, and I'm getting paid scraps, and then whenever bad things happen, they blame me for stuff. And so his thing is burn it down. If you can't get ahead, if you can't join them, if you can't do anything, if you're just trapped at the bottom, well, let's just burn it down. So he is very well, okay. He's okay with burning things down. He has no problem with burning things down. His son, on the other hand, is not okay. His son is not okay with that. His son's name has a really strange name. It's Colonel Sardis Snopes, which is like, it's a very, well, not weird, but wow, it's a kind of like I had to like read it a couple times before I could say it, because Colonel Sardis Snopes, that's a very tough name, I think, because that Colonel Sardis Snopes. I mean, if I meet a kid with that name, that is a tough name, man. That is, oh, Colonel Sardis Snopes. I mean, your parents, that's too much. Too much, all right? It's too much on the names. If you're naming a kid, I mean, name him something that's easier, that people can understand. I mean, Colonel. Like, why would you name a kid Colonel? I mean, imagine a 7-year-old kid named Colonel. I mean, no. Oh man, parents with their names. But yeah, Colonel Cyrus Snopes. He's like the main character of the short story. He pretty much goes against his father. At the beginning, they're pretty much in court, and a judge is judging Snopes with another farmer by the name of Harris, and Harris is accusing Snopes of burning down his barn. And Snopes is like, I didn't do it, and the judge's like, okay, we don't have enough evidence to prove that Snopes did it, and so they bring in Colonel Sardis Snopes to kind of like give his testimony, but then they don't make him give the testimony, because he's like, I know my father wants me to lie, but I know that he did it, or he's involved, and he knows the truth. All right, he knows the truth that his father is the culprit here, like the father is guilty here, but the father wants him to be loyal to his family, and so he's like just trapped in the middle between his moral compass and justice, and loyalty to his family. And so the judge doesn't let him speak. They say, there's not enough evidence to prove whether, Snopes is guilty from the first time, in the short story that he's brought into trial. And basically, they tell him he has to leave, even though they don't have evidence, but, they feel like it's necessary for him to leave. So he leaves, they travel, and they go to another farm. I go to the next place. It's this major this Spain, and I do have to say here, the father is very abusive. He hits Colonel Sartor Snopes. He hits him. Abner is a violent guy. He's a brutal and violent guy, and he's like he rules his family with an iron fist, and he's all about loyalty. In some ways it's almost like a gang. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's like the father's at the head of the pack, and the father, he says what to do. He's in charge of his kids. He leads them. He makes them do what he wants, and if you're not loyal, then you get hit. And basically, what happens with the Despains is that Snopes ruins their rug. He puts horse manure, like you know, yeah, he ruins their rug, and they're like, "Hey, you have to pay 20 bushels of corn," and they're like, "No, you can only produce 10." So they drop it down to 10, but he's still not with it. He's really angry, and he decides to go burn down the Spain's farm, or their property, their barn, And Colonel had had enough. His son had had enough. Colonel Sartor Snopes, he gets involved. He goes warn to the Spains, and yeah, the father, he dies. All right, he gets killed, because he was destroying their property, and the short story pretty much ends in despair, because the Colonel Sartor Snopes, he loves his family. I mean, of course, he's part of the family. He wants to be loyal to his family, but at the same time, he has a moral compass and justice, and he knows that his father is wrong, because his father is just whoever hurts him, whatever bad treatment he gets, he lashes out and burns people's stuff down to the ground. In terms of deeper meaning and analysis, I mean, there's a lot going on within this work. I mean, again, in society, um, people at the bottom of the barrel, when they go against the people at the top of the barrel, um, it's never fun, because if you're being oppressed, if you have nothing and some people have everything, you feel like everything's rigged against you. At some point, you would want a revolution to change it, to flip the board over, and that's what Abner was going towards. Because if you can't be a part of it, if you can't make it your way up, if you're being mistreated, well, let's just burn it all down. So it was a way to get back at the rich for his lot in life. So barn burning, it's in of a way, it reminds me of revolution. It reminds me of revolting. It reminds me of rebellion. It reminds me of fighting against the system that you feel like you're at the bottom of. And in many ways, we've seen that throughout history. Whenever a group of people feel like there's no upward mobility, they're hungry, they have nowhere to sleep, they have no money, they can't work, they can't do anything, they revolt. All right, they revolt, they take over, they just, I don't know, build another country, or so governments, people in power, society has to always keep that in mind. You have to always have a middle class, or you always have to make sure that that people are not just scraping at the bottom of the barrel, because if too many people get down there and there's no way up, it's revolution time. So we have to keep that in mind. The son here, Colonel Sutter Snopes, I mean, his moral compass, even though his father is wrong, he has a moral compass. He wants to do what's right, and in the end, he does do what's right. He ruins the Spains, and I mean, his father, dies because of it. But this is something that it says a lot about his character and his development, because yeah, the family loyalty. I mean, some people, even if their family is doing wrong, they will go with loyalty rather than going against their family. Think about the mafia in New York at one point. It didn't matter if you're part of the mafia, you do as they do. So When it's family loyalty, some people will ride with their families until the end, and some people won't. And Colonel Sarter Smokes, he wasn't about that. Even though he was young, he was like, whatever my father's doing, I'm not in it. I'm gonna choose my own path in life. So yeah, that's pretty much what happens within this work. There's a lot of symbolism within this work, a lot of family dynamics, and how the father and the children behave with one another, and the roles that are played within the family, and also how they view society and how society impacts them. So it's a very deep and rich story that has many layers to it. But that's my summary analysis. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.